Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleash Her. I'm Roberta, and I'm your host for the podcast today. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm so excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine, Miss Danielle Hutchinson. Hi, Danielle.
Hey there. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. I've been reading up on your story and everything, and I would love for everyone to get to know you a little bit better. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it's, always hard to kind of put things into a couple sentences, but I was a English teacher for many years, turned entrepreneur, turned ghostwriter, editor, world traveler, and now I'm here able to, talk to people just like you on podcasts, and I get to meet new people every day through the work that I do, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I think I have a lot to share about what it means to, grow confidence and really just find a new version of yourself by working hard and doing what you love every day.
Ah, my gosh, I love that. And listen, Ghostwriter, I needed you a few years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I see where everybody can use a little bit of help with whatever stage of writing they might be on. And I looked through your book also, and maybe you didn't even need it because it came out amazing. So, but yeah, no, I love what I do. I get to meet new people and help them with all these different types of projects. It's great.
I think it's great because I'll tell you, when I first started on this journey, I had no idea how I was going to do this. And I remember even thinking, I just need a ghostwriter, you know? So I ended up meeting some people that introduced me to a hybrid publishing company. And that's what helped me. I couldn't have done it on my own. So what do you do and how do you help others? With books and tell us all about that.
Yeah, so, like I mentioned before when you were talking about, maybe you needed a ghostwriter, people come to me and they kind of are on all different stages of their writing process. They might have an idea for what they want to write about. Maybe they don't, and they just want to have their name on a book for whatever reason it might be. And then I work with them, whatever stage that might be, to help them take it from, you know, idea to outline to draft to published work. Here at Authors on Mission, we meet you where you are in that regard. So, whatever it is that you want a book written for, we make sure that we tailor it in order to meet those needs. So maybe you just want to get your story out. You're trying to create a legacy. Maybe you want to amplify your brand. Maybe you want to get more speaking engagements, more podcasts. All of these things can be strengthened by having a book under your name. And, it's almost like a little business card you can hold up and show others. So, in that way, that's exactly what I do. I work with people one on one and really help them bring those ideas to life.
Oh my goodness. I really like that. And this is so true. I didn't realize, but everything you just said, like a book opens doors and it really is like a business card. Um so do you work with people individually? Do you do collaborations, anthologies? What do you offer?
So most of the time we do work with individual clients. We have had a couple of people come to us in groups or partnerships, working with the other members of their team. For example, two co-owners of a company coming over and wanting to talk about the experience of building their company. But for the most part, it is, single entrepreneurs or, and just anybody with a story to tell. And then I work with them one on one. We kind of sit down maybe on a weekly basis via Zoom and talk about, chapter by chapter, any revisions from the last chapter. It's actually fun, like just having like an ongoing friend date every week and being able to chat about whatever it is that's going on in the book. And, by the end of it, we have this completed piece and it's almost like a, bittersweet, like, nice talking to you. And but then we get out on the bookshelves and, we do stay in touch and, we're able to help continue to market their book and all of that. But you really build those relationships with people, is what I'm trying to say. And, it is a very personalized experience, one on one, to answer your question.
Well, how do you so what are different ways of growing your business and how do you like get more speaking gigs and things like that?
Yeah, well, once you have a book with your name on it, it's not necessarily going to automatically guarantee you those returns on investment, right? It can't just be like have it there and put it on the shelf and hope that it's gonna get up on its own and knock on people's doors and say, hire the person who wrote me. So you kind of have to, continuously market it in a way that, helps people to find it, for example. Or even if it's just like handing out the book to your clients or saying, hey, give this a read to your employees, just kind of spreading the word. And then you never know how that's going to help you form a connection, in terms of, whether it be with those clients or whether it be with another business partner or finding those speaking engagements. So it's just something good to have in your back pocket.
Yeah. How can, so from that book, and this has happened to me, so I totally see. I mean, I've had speaking engagements. This led to like having a podcast, so anything is possible. I see that now. Um, so how can you create multiple streams of income from a book? I mean, from, besides what I said of
Yeah,
speaking engagements.
so yeah, I mean, rather than just, like I said before, you can't just leave it there on the shelves. You can always kind of draw more material from that book. So a lot of my clients will structure their books from the beginning so that you can make more content from that same book. So for example, a chapter could also be a blog post on your blog later on, or a certain section could be a video on your YouTube channel. And that way you're kind of making multiple streams of in the media, that more people can find you and you grow that audience, which, therefore allows you more streams of income. Not to mention workshops that you can build based on your ideas that are in that book. And, not to mention the speaking engagements as well. So there's endless opportunities for it. And I've seen many of my clients, go from somebody who just has their business to amplifying in all these different areas because of their book.
Yeah. And sometimes it can lead to things you don't expect. And so now we met on Podmatch, which is amazing. And I have met so many authors from there. So it's a great platform for you, huh?
Yeah,
So
we found many different authors to come onto our podcast, for example, and talk about their experiences. And yeah, I mean, even when somebody already has a book, they can always benefit from, speaking with somebody to help them continue to market it. They're not getting enough sales from their book or they're not getting that return on investment they were hoping for. Well, having somebody by your side and giving you those tips allows you to do so. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to and they offer you a plan to help you get there. So.
so so what was it that gave you this idea to start doing this? And, being an English teacher.
Yeah, so I was kind of just following the standard cookie cutter path. Like, I grew up and everyone was like, you'd be a good teacher. You'd like to write, you should be a teacher, which I guess, thinking back, that kind of sentence just automatically kind of shuts you down. Like, you're good at writing, you're not going to be a famous author, so you might as well just be a teacher.
Right.
So yeah, I just kind of, went into that field. I loved it for many years. And and then one day I just, I was working with my boyfriend. He said, "Why not just go ahead and get onto some freelancing websites?" So I did that, and honestly, it was just a matter of clicking that button and signing up for the account, and starting to get more clients. That really just built my confidence because the more successful projects I turned around, and I was hearing these reviews, and also strengthening my skills based on that. It just grew and grew and grew. And now here I am, and I have all these opportunities under my belt because I just pressed that button and got started and continued with it and didn't give up.
I think that's amazing because when I was young, okay, so I love to read, but I
Yeah.
do not like to write.
Yeah, I hear a lot. I hear that a lot.
There are a lot of people that need you.
Yeah, I mean, some people might say themselves, like, I'm no good at writing or I don't like to write. But, I guess that's kind of where I come in. I can help them ease that burden. That being said, there is a huge joy in writing and getting your thoughts out into a page. But some people just have trouble, you know, finding the right words to say, and they just need somebody, they like to speak it out loud to somebody, for example, which is why, a lot of the times I talk to my clients on Zoom calls and then I'm able to, get those ideas out from them just kind of by interviewing them, you know what I mean? So, even if you don't like writing, there's all these different ways nowadays that you can still write your book.
Yeah. So when you because you're coaching people to write books and helping them along the way. So do you suggest, because this was a huge thing for me during my writing process, was they were like, okay, some people suggested taking certain time every day to write, but there were some days I just sat there and looked at my paper. Or, because I like to write things down first, and then we began with the putting it into like a doc and all that. But, how do you do that? Like when people are like, I can't do it. I can't do it at a certain time, or I'm not in the mood.
Yeah, well, that's a huge myth out there when people tell you, write for 15 minutes every day. Like, one, it's not
Mhm.
realistic. You're not going to have a free 15 minutes every day. And you're right, the ideas might not be flowing in your brain at that particular time, those 15 minutes. So I'd recommend, you have to find a time that works best for you. If you find that you're more inspired in the mornings, do your best to make it happen in the morning. Same with nighttime. Or maybe you're just literally driving to work and inspiration strikes because you see a billboard on the side of the road or something, right? So that's when you take out your notes or ask Siri to be like, write down this idea for me so that you have it later on. It's more so taking advantage of the times that do work for you rather than forcing it, if that makes sense, I'd say. um,
Yes, completely.
yeah, and that being said, and along with the question you asked, is many people think they just simply don't have the time to write, which I do agree with. Like, who has the time to sit down every day? But that's where we come in because we're able to help you. One, if you want to write it on your own, we help you, find a plan that does work for you, or by nature, a ghostwriter does alleviate that burden of time. We do it on your behalf, and then all you have to do is read it after the fact and maybe make some adjustments, some additions, but that's how you were able to save the time doing so and make it happen. So.
Okay. So, what's the average time would you say to write a book and have it published?
So the publishing is what really would take a majority of the time, and that really also depends on the publishing side of things. Being that I'm more so the ghostwriter and editor, I don't see too much of that process, but I do know it takes a couple months between formatting and putting everything together. The actual writing of the book can be as quick, as flexible as you need it to be. It's funny because I think it was like 2 months ago. I got a phone call and I was literally at ShopRite, like in the cheese aisle. And this person was like, I want to write a book by next Sunday. I look at my calendar, I'm like, today's Sunday. He wants to write a book in 7 days. So we made it happen. I mean, with the right price point, I was able to clear out my schedule. And you know what? He was very happy with the book and it got out onto the market. So it can be as quick as that. It really depends who you're working with, the schedules, your timeline. On average, though, I would say it does take a couple months to write a very, a quality book where you are reviewing every chapter and going back and forth and really diving into it. So, the ultimate answer to every question is it just depends on the situation.
Okay. Okay. See, and you offer all of those suggestions like, when my daughter and I started, well, I didn't know she was going to be co-authoring a book with me. And so sometimes you're probably like, "Oh, wait a minute. You have those ideas. You come up with those things and to help others, and they need that guidance."
Yeah, definitely. I mean, somebody might have an idea that, you think is a good thing to run with in the book. Maybe it's not as good. So you have to kind of, discuss a little bit and see what's going to work best for your audience and the readers, but also, maintaining the message you want to get across. That must have been really interesting to collaborate with somebody else in your writing process too. I know that's um, it's something, a challenge and a benefit too.
Yes, for sure. You feel like, okay, I'm not in this by myself, but come on, you got to hold it up your end of the bargain, right? Um,
Mhm.
so to so to do all of this, I feel like it takes like a level of confidence. And my podcast, Unleash Her, is all about confidence. We love hearing how everyone got started. And if it was just one of those things, I know you mentioned your boyfriend had mentioned this to you. So was it his support? Do you think you would have done it if he wasn't around or?
You know, I was, writing and dabbling at it on my own for a long time, but it did kind of just take somebody to, maybe even if it wasn't him, but anybody else to say, like, why don't you try ghostwriting or, editing? And then I would have definitely, hopped on myself too. But then there's also the level of like, holding yourself accountable and saying, you know what, I'm going to keep applying to more freelancing gigs. I'm going to keep scaling myself. I'm going to, you know, um, raise my prices and, add more and more jobs because why not stretch my limits and see how much I can, accomplish on this. So I would say he really was just like a huge help, getting me started and getting me out there. For all the women listening out there, though, by all means, don't listen to what your boyfriend's saying when it comes to this kind of thing. But he just happened to be really good at, the business end of things. And then I get to kind of sit back and enjoy just writing and talking to people and all of that. So it was very collaborative is what I'm trying to say. But going back to the confidence aspect of it, it does build a level of confidence being able to, you know, work on so many projects and refine your skills in this way. Does that make sense, Roberta?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And so, I always wonder when somebody does, I mean, just to write a book, I think is a lot, but what you've done is just taken it to that next level. So, you had to have some confidence in yourself, but I know you've also had some experiences along the way that I don't know your story. If you want to share with us, didn't you have something that happened to you?
Yeah, yeah. So, it's funny because, a while back, I was, again, just teaching and everything. And then this crazy thing happened one day where I was literally just cooking my breakfast and normal day, whatever. Next thing I know, my entire head is on fire. It was insane, actually. What happened was my hair had, fallen over the stove and the flame hit it, and this whole side of my face, like we're talking like literal, like Dark Knight vibes, the Two-Face guy. It was really unfortunate, and I'm making jokes about it now, but it was actually very devastating because, I mean, it's your face. And, if we're talking about confidence here, which is why I share this story, nothing's more of a confidence builder or killer than your face, I would say. Like it's something everybody sees right away. So it took me months and I was just like bandaged up with like, having to apply all these creams and everything. But I mean, I'm not wearing makeup right now, so you would never know now, but it's been a couple years. But the reason, again, I share this is during that recovery period, I was off from teaching. So what did I have time to do? I had time to write. So, it kind of gave me that opportunity to get more into what I was looking to do with my life and help me kind of redefine, like, you know, where my passion lies. And like I mentioned before, my boyfriend was ultimately the one to say, why not start freelancing? But like that time alone with myself and really repairing my face and my mind at the same time, it helped. It was kind of a really fun, transformative time in my life. Not to say it was fun, but just to say for anybody else going through something similar, make the most of it. And, that's how it all works out in the end.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I mean, you would never be able to tell. So that's awesome. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
So we all go through things in our lives, whether it's, really huge, things that, are very devastating that I know, yourself and many others have gone through, or if it's something like this where it is, scary, but, ultimately you can bounce back, every level, every end of the scale leads you to something else, like I guess you could say, and, it helps to build that confidence as well.
Yeah, it does. And it gave you that time that you needed to really just kind of focus on you. And so
Yes.
that healing time was good. But I read here that you've traveled the globe twice. So that definitely seeing the world has, I think, opened your eyes to an
Yeah, it's hilarious. Before I started all of my, freelancing and all of that, I'd only been on the East Coast of the United States, like literally from New Jersey to Florida, and that was really it. And then, as soon as I started, freelancing and, being a little bit more flexible with my time, we started jet setting and we've gone around the world twice already, but also on a couple different, trips and other places too. But literally we're going to like Morocco and Dubai and Italy and all these different places. And you're right that, knowing that you can go out there with something as literal just a backpack on your back with a laptop in it to do my work and, seeing all different places, that is a huge perspective builder, like just seeing the different sunsets from different places around the world in itself is just something that inspires you and builds that sort of confidence. So definitely I agree with you there, Roberta.
Yeah. So, okay, two questions.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place you've been, and where would you like to go that you have not been?
Oh boy. So, everybody has like, their favorite places that everybody else also likes. I mean, if you haven't been to Santorini or Positano, there's the most beautiful places in the world. But off the beaten path a little bit, Busan, South Korea. The most, cleanest, most beautiful place. It's a beach just surrounded by skyscrapers. And it's the coolest place because it has like these nighttime vibes, but it's also like peaceful and beautiful and highly recommend. And where I want to go, I mean, we were going to go to China this past summer. Turns out you need a visa to go there. So we were not able to. We were actually at the airport in Dubai at 4 a.m., about to board that flight. Yeah, I see your face, no joke. And they say, okay, visa, please. And we go, what? So long story short, we ended up, staying in Dubai a couple more days, but that is on the bucket list now to do it the correct way and make our way over there. So
Oh my gosh, what an experience.
yeah, yeah.
And that's how we grow.
Yeah, you have to make those mistakes and find out. And it is actually a really funny story. It's branching off of that same story because we ended up staying that extra day in Dubai. We actually made friends with a couple other people in Dubai, because it just kind of happened that way. And funny enough, we have another trip planned with those same people at the end of this month now. We're reconnecting again. They live in Ireland. So we're reconnecting over in Amsterdam. Like, you never know the way the world works. One missed
Wow.
flight and that's what happens. So really cool stuff. Something that your listeners can probably just keep in mind too, when something like that happens, you don't know where it's going to lead.
Right? That's one thing I've learned. I'm like, okay, well, you can't get mad. You can't change it. So
Yes.
why get upset? Just improvise and understand that maybe you weren't supposed to go there at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe next time. We'll see.
Ooh, oh my gosh. So that is awesome. So you're like, you can travel anywhere, you can work from anywhere.
Yeah, and that's, the reason why, I like to bring these kinds of stories up because, the way that I work remotely gives me those opportunities to do so. So, I mean, not everybody's going to be able to hop up and, travel and do these fun things just by working remotely, but I'd have to say if you're building that confidence up enough and you're scaling yourself enough and you're, really managing your time and priorities enough, then anything's possible.
I noticed that just being in nature, oh, my mind opens up. I'm sure that most people are the same, or I'm sure, I mean, everybody has their style, but for me, it's being out in nature and grounding.
Hmm.
I have my feet on a grounding mat right now inside. I'm always grounded.
Oh, I love that. That's really funny. One of my ghostwriting projects was on the topic of grounding. So it's actually a pretty, if we're talking about the same thing, it's something not many people know about, right?
I know.
Is it literally earth beneath your feet right now? Is that where it's situated?
Yes.
That's so interesting. Okay, really cool. So,
Yes.
wow, yeah, and I definitely agree. I mean, I did the research for this particular project, and there's something about like, feeling those minerals beneath like your toes that helps you
Mhm.
like, in your mind and process all of that.
Yeah.
Really cool. Have you spoken a lot about that on your shows? I don't want to be too repetitive for your listeners, but I'm curious myself.
Girl, I haven't even hardly talked about it. I guess it's something that I do. So I was telling some of my clients about it, and they're like, "What? You didn't tell us about this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Whoops. All right. I'm going to do a master class actually. So this is how things happen, right? Because I've done a lot of things to change myself and my health and nutrition, but this is one thing. And just think going to the beach, putting your feet in the sand and getting in that ocean water. I think there's nothing better than that.
Oh yeah, no, you're making me want to go to the beach right now. Thanks a lot. I'm just
Yeah.
here in my basement. But yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. Sometimes when I'm writing, I have my laptop at the beach and I dig my feet into the sand and you're just like subconsciously like, moving your toes and it's a good way to, keep the thoughts moving along. So
Yeah, and don't you sleep so good at night when you're like on vacation, you're at the
Mhm.
beach?
Yeah, yeah, no, honestly, the best is if you've been on a boat all day and then, you're just feeling like the waves still like while you're laying in bed. That's a really fun part of it too.
Oh my gosh. Well, what else, is there anything that what would take you, how do I say this? To Okay, we talk about authentic self here too. And, finding your purpose. All right. So you're on this journey. Do you see Is there a bigger version of you? Is there a higher version? Is this like just you're getting started and you see other things? Or are you just letting them happen to you?
I mean, no, see, it's another hilarious thing about this is again, I started as a teacher, thought I was going to be a teacher for many years. I still am teaching. And there's nothing wrong with it. I love the kids, I love the people. But, why stop there, I guess is what to say. So, I'm doing this right now. I'm ghostwriting. I always say angel writing by mistake because we do call it angel writing at Authors on Mission. I'm sorry for that misspeak right there. But,
Oh.
I'm doing all of this and it's not the end, it's kind of just the
Yeah.
beginning. I think, years from now, I'm gonna write my own books, and maybe my own classes about how to, thrive in this sort of industry and, my experiences traveling perhaps. But then from there, I mean, once you have that income, why not continue, buy some properties, buy some boats, whatever it is, and have people rent it, and then you're able to scale yourself more and more and more. So, I mean, just I share that because your listeners or anybody else can probably hear that too. Like there's even if you're feeling comfortable and it's, things are going great, don't stop. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at least. That's the goals.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's always a higher level, a higher version. Um, so I'm curious as to how does AI come
Mhm.
into the writing process?
Yeah, that's a huge question because it's a big hot topic these days. It tends to come up like almost every day to whoever I'm, whether it's on podcasts or with my clients or, even at the supermarket or something, it's everywhere. So, I actually have a lot of clients who come to me with their AI written manuscripts or their AI written ideas. So it's funny because, you know, half of them say, I wrote this myself, and then the other half do admit that it's completely robotic. But yeah, a big part of my role has become, looking at it, humanizing it, making it sound like a human and pass the, checkers and all that. Um, in terms of what I do on a daily basis, we actually don't use AI here at Authors on Mission. It's actually like a policy, especially with the writing. Like we want it to be the client's voice. So, a robot's not going to find that.
Mm.
That being said, we do use it for like research purposes and, maybe some outlining ideas or, you know, I actually went from writing romance as my first, starting project, like easy, fun romance, cozy mysteries, children's books. And then now with Authors on Mission, I'm working with like, these high up like entrepreneurs, people who work under Biden and, people who are in like the medical field. So I'm dealing with these complicated topics that I've never heard of before. I thought I would even write a book about. So what I need to do is, I use AI to kind of be like, okay, can you explain this concept to me so that I can actually, write about it in the book? So that's something I do use it for. Sometimes it's for like that research aspect. Of course, you have to validate the sources, but it helps you wrap your head around topics too. So I think that's something that, your listeners could, probably benefit from too, is, if you don't understand something, ask AI to tell you to say it as if you were a kindergartner, and then it helps you to grasp your head around it. And
Yes. I've used it a little bit just with for some ideas and things like that.
yeah.
Um, but obviously you could tell if it wasn't me, that it wasn't me, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and we're all about finding your authentic self. So, but I have to tell you, so it was actually, oh gosh, I think it's been about a couple of years ago. I was looking for my brand. What's my brand? And so a friend of mine had just been learning how to play with AI, and she put all this, she was just listening to me. I was just spilling my guts. And so she was putting it all in there, and it actually it's the one that said unleash her.
Okay.
So that's great. It gives you ideas.
Yeah, no, I like that. And it's actually the perfect title for a podcast too. I love it. It's inspiring. It gets you curious, like, what's it going to be about? But also in like a way that, you can take home with you and remember. So yeah, I mean, idea generation, 100% a great idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes like
Yeah.
silly things, but for the most part, it's
I loved that. And I told her, I was like, oh, yes, that's who I like, that's who I want to be. That's who I want to step into. So it took me like a year to accept that version of me.
Yeah, no, sometimes,
Yeah.
when you're making these transformations, it is a hard step. I mean, for sometimes, you feel like nobody can kind of relate to what you're doing anymore, or, those steps you take. I mean, people at my school, they don't quite, we can't really chat about, the authors, right, because it's a whole different world. So it does take a little bit of time to embrace that new, side of yourself when you do begin to, go through these transformations, like which is your authentic self. It's you all along, but, I guess, one thing to touch upon here is there's a difference between being your authentic self, but then also growing and remaining yourself too. I guess maybe that's something you've spoken about before.
Yeah. And just finding your authentic self. I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
every day, I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I don't like this.
Yeah.
Or, or this, or music recently has been a part of, I love music, but there's some things that I'm like, I don't want to listen to that anymore.
Oh my gosh. Are you finding it so hard to just find like an artist that you like listening to these days? Like
Yes.
I used to get so excited about like new songs coming out, but now I'm like, okay, like, Sabrina Carpenter's, oh, she's okay. But what else do we have? So I see what you mean there.
Yeah, yeah. Even so mine's more, I guess, not the like top 40, top 100, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I don't, and then when they play something, they play it constantly and you get sick of it so
Yeah,
fast.
and
So
that's how it gets in your head. It's a trap. And then you find yourself liking it because it's been in your head all day.
yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, all right. So what else? What do you have in the future? Do you have anything planned? Do you have a book of your own?
That's really funny because I do not have a book of my own yet. It's on the horizon. I do have many ideas for it. I mentioned before that, one thing I would like to do is to get that out. I just need to carve some time for myself and, just, knock it out one day, I think. Um, but yeah, I mean, when I do write it, it's most likely going to be about my experiences, something I can help teach others about how to get where I am. Or maybe I could also write something a little bit more fun. I would love to write just a cheesy romance of my own.
Okay.
Always the funnest
Yes.
books to write, it's just sweet, funny, all that. So one
I
day,
love that.
yeah. But yeah, to answer your question right now, just grinding away, working hard, and when that moment comes that we take my next step, it's going to be a big step, I think. So just in that phase of you know, transformation, I guess you could say.
Right. Maybe you'll have to take like a 6 month time off to write your own or something.
Yeah, yeah. Or I mean, like before, it could just even a week. Just knock it out.
Wow.
One of these days. Yeah, I mean, like I said, back to the writing process and everything, it could happen as quickly as that. I mean, you just have to sit down and really work at it. We talked before about how you might not have the right inspiration at the time or all that, and it's not possible to find those blocks of time, but just one day saying, I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna just write. I mean, I need to follow my own advice, but I say it to all of my clients all the time. Don't let something like that, hold you back. Just start writing.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, like, even though I had the idea years ago to write a book, I wanted to write a children's book. I never expected this to happen. And when I decided to, I had no idea how I was going to do it. I just knew I had to do it. And so how can because that's why I was telling you, I needed you years ago. But how can people find you?
Yes, so you can find us at authorsonmission.com. We're also on YouTube and Instagram, same thing, Authors on Mission. We are not authors on a mission, just authors on mission. Some people get a little bit confused. I also have a personal Instagram, We Like Books Inc., kind of building it right now. But for the most part, if you're looking to get a consultation from us, figure out how we can serve you, whether it's, ghostwriting or editing or marketing, whatever it is, schedule a call with us. We have free consultations and we'll be able to guide you in the right direction. So check us out.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on here and taking your time out. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, this has been really good. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming today. Make sure to reach out. If you have thought about writing a book, reach out to Danielle and have that conversation with her because that is the only way that you're going to ever know. And so thank you everyone for being here today. Make sure to find my podcast, Unleash Her, on all of the major platforms. And if you are seeing us on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe to this podcast so we can have more interviewees like Danielle. And you know, you'll learn so much more. So make sure subscribe, like, and comment if you would like to hear from Danielle or speak to her yourself. Thank you all and take care. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you all later.